The discussion this afternoon is all about our environment, our livelihood, and our existence. Because our livelihood depends on our environment. And if our environment is compromised in various ways, it would affect our livelihoods and ultimately our existence. So it's at this juncture that it's my pleasure to invite to the comfort zone three very important people to the Grenada community. They have been providing human service in our country, and it is against that background that I would have invited them to be on this program this afternoon. We have ladies first. We have a lady in the midst in the person of Miss Claudette Pitt. I don't know if she's going to show herself on the camera. Miss Claudette Pitt, who is representing SPECTO. And SPECTO is the St. Patrick Environmental and Ecotourism Organization. And they do have a website. And on the website, they would tell you that they are the St. Patrick's Environmental Community Tourism Organization. It's a non-profit environmental and community tourism advocacy group that is based in St. Patrick, and they engage the community in the protection and conservation of the endangered leatherback turtle species and the development of alternative livelihoods. There's that word again, livelihoods, based in environmental conservation and activism. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the comfort zone for the very first time Miss Claudette Pitt. Good afternoon, Miss Pitt, and welcome to you.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Once again, Raphael, we haven't seen a long time, but
it's a long time. It's a few years now.
Remember the years when you were with us sitting in
yes.
board meetings all late in the night, yes, and be worrying about when you're getting home and how you're getting home. That has been a few years. We still there and you're still there. So yeah, I'm happy to be here on behalf of SPECTO and the St. Patrick's community. Although I'm from St. Andrews, but you know, I adopted this parish. Still love my St. Andrews though.
All right. And
yes,
then and then we have with us the man in white. And many Grenadians and visitors to Grenada, you would know him. I don't think I've ever seen him dressed any other way. Always in white, providing human service. One of our top, if not the top taxi provider, you know, and not just a taxi man. And he's going to tell you a bit more of himself shortly. Mr. Mandoo Seals, that's another gentleman our paths haven't crossed in a long time. Good afternoon and welcome to the comfort zone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon to all the listeners. I'm unemployed at the moment for the last 14 months, but I'm hanging in like Claudette. Nobody's paying us, but we fight in a cause, and a good cause too as well. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we have with us a gentleman that I have never met. And actually, I only came across him because it was my intention to do a program on the environment. And in looking up, reviewing SPECTO's recent activities, I noticed that he has been involved with SPECTO in some of the operations and functions. So with the turtle operations, yes, I noticed that he has been involved at some level there. Mr. or Doctor is a veterinarian, Dr. Kenrith. Good afternoon and welcome to you.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I am hearing you.
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm on the other side of the world now, unfortunately, so it's like almost 10 p.m. in the night.
Okay. Wow. And he says he's on the other side of the world. He told me he's somewhere out there in Africa. Where exactly are you? Somaliland?
In the Horn of Africa, that would be northeast, a place called Somaliland. That would be close to Djibouti, just north of Kenya and Somalia. Doing some conservation work out here with cheetahs, the Cheetah Conservation Fund.
Okay. So you see, our Grenadian people are internationalists. We are out there. There he is doing conservation work in Africa, in the motherland. And I expect we are going to hear a little more about that. So getting back to the lady of the evening, Miss Pitt, can you tell us a little more about Specto and about the turtle toes? I believe this is the toe season. Can you tell us what is happening presently at this point in time?
My dogs, you're going to hear them. They are part of my my scenery up here.
Yes.
But are they disturbing you?
No, they're not.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Carter, I'm finally happy to have met you. We operate at two. You are with Ocean Spirits, one group that has a mandate to do the research, and I've often heard your name mentioned. You're quite popular with people as Devontae Charles. And, so a little bit about Specto. Dr. Carter will talk about his role in Ocean Spirits. Specto was formed in 2009 because the Department of Fisheries in the whole management program of the female endangered leatherback turtle on Liverpool Beach, part of the management of that conservation program was to get a community organization involved, in particular in the guided tours of the conservation. And so they invited a number of people to come to meetings, and we had a number of meetings with fisheries in mostly the community surrounding the Leatherback Turtle Beach. And that brought a group of people who volunteered their time to become part of that activity. I, in particular, became it because my daughter is a marine biologist, and over the years, she tried to get me to understand about the importance of saving turtles. It was just not the leatherback. And we used to have quite a confrontation because turtle meat was my best meat that I ate. I enjoyed it. So it took me a while, but with a constant education and awareness, and meeting the leatherback turtle on the beach with TAMCC. There was, I can't remember which of the teachers, we used to engage with TAMCC students on a camp on Liverpool Beach sometime in June, July, for the students, especially the science students. I think it was the English class, I can't remember which, because my children were involved. And there came my introduction to the leatherback turtle, and going on the beach, either to bring food or camping gear for my children at that time. And that was my introduction. So I quickly volunteered to be part of this community group to look at part of the conservation of the leatherback turtle. We then came together and came up with the name St. Patrick's Environmental, and we added community tourism because the guided tours is an ecotourism activity, and so it was important for us to make that link in our name with the environmental protection of the endangered species, i.e. the female leatherback turtle, and its role in creating community tourism opportunities through ecotourism. And that's how Specto was born. Turtle tours, we have been conducting tours since 2010. We didn't have any tours last year because of COVID. And this year we were not sure, but with the help of the police, who has been helping us with curfew passes, we've been able to start the tours on the 10th of April, and so far it's going ahead. We have named this year education awareness for local communities, because that's who our visitors would be at the conservation site. And while we would not be able to make the kinds of funds to support the livelihood that goes with this, because the guided tours are provided opportunities for tour guides and conservation wardens. The conservation wardens uphold the closed beach regulations that were set in place by the government of Grenada to ensure that nobody comes to the beach and interfere with the conservation process of the nesting of this endangered species. So the guided tours are to ensure that people come on a tour and adhere to the regulations that has been set in SRO 15 of 2012 that guides that conservation program on Liverpool Beach. So the livelihood opportunities this year is still there, but the sources of funds are going to be lower. So we have dedicated this year to the awareness, raising the awareness of our local supporters on the why it's important to support that conservation program of the government of Grenada at Liverpool Beach. Thank you.
Okay, raising awareness. We shall be returning to that. Mr. Sills, Mandoo tours. For those who don't know, tell us about Mandoo tours. And you said you've been out of a job for the past 13 months.
Yes, obvious. When you're in this sort of business, which is so fragile, it is so seasonal, as you know, and if it have that sort of domino effect. As Claudette was mentioning, I've been with them since they started back in 2009. So I bought a Spectre and decided to die with them. Wherever. So I'm not giving up on that. Yeah, you see, as you're quite aware, and we're all aware, the development takes place in more or less in one part of the island. And then it's unfaithful. We having this massive urban migration of our people leaving the way up in the north in Satés and other villages, other parishes, to head to the south. As it's so unfair if you look at it, that suffices to say you have a stadium in the south, cruise ship town in the south, commercial docks in the south, hotels in the south, airport in the south. So obviously you're having a massive urban migration of people leaving the rural areas into the south looking for employment. It end up in a bit of squatting, and so that's why you have to decentralize. You have to, so that's why I try to get on board. Take for instance, as you're quite aware, fish fry. I wanted fish fry, and I hope to die fish fry too as well. It's only break off now because of COVID. So you got to think about the people, because for some people, Grenada is St. George's. And a lot of people think that way. When you think about Grenada, it's just the southern part of it, and not the rural part of it. But that's where you have the natural sites, the resources is in the north, you know. Especially the parish of St. Patrick, which is the most historic parish. You have Sulphur Spring, Great Houses, Liver Pond, you know, Rum Distillery, and so. But still, on the other hand, they're telling you is almost the most published parish. So it cannot work that way. So being on board with people like Claudette and being on board like my good friend George Vincent and yourself, and so that's my goal, is to help and, you know, push the people in the rural areas. So that's my been in tourism, as you said, for way back since started in around 1996. So I've been there quite a while. I've seen a lot of changes, but hoping to pick up the pieces and move on. So forget the clothes, that's just my brand, as you know. That's my brand. Everybody got a brand, you know.
Yeah, man.
So that's just a little bit of who I am, you know. Yeah. Prior to that, I spent a lot of years traveling around the world. I've been to Mogadishu, I've been to Africa, South Africa, a lot of West African ports like the Cameroon, in Douala, and Zanzibar, Nigeria, Lagos, and all these other places, Morocco, and so. So I have a little feel of where my brother come from, but I hope we get back there someday. Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. Carter, Can you
Yes,
tell
me.
us, please tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I'm certain that many of our viewers, our listeners, are mostly acquainted with Miss Pitt and Mandoo seals, and not so much with Dr. Kenrith Carter. Tell us who is Dr. Kenrith Carter, and what Dr. Kenrith Carter does, and what would make it possible for Dr. Kenrith Carter to be the man who's doing conservation work all the way over in Somaliland at this point in time.
Well, first of all, I'm a veterinarian, what you call an exotic animal veterinarian. I have a practice in Grenada, been practicing there for the last 7 years. I'm Dr. Carter Vet, but I volunteer 40% of my time conservation with Ocean Spirits. That's the other organization in the north. They do more sea turtle research. They would have an international team coming every year, which was inhibited by COVID as well. Plus, we have a rehabilitation sort of thing where local fishermen who probably were turtle hunters in the past, they get educated through outreach programs. We go to the schools, we go to the communities, and then we rehire them. So now we have fishermen working with Ocean Spirits throughout the year. That was also affected by COVID and the loss of income. They also work with the university, and those people, students, would give donations and come on the beach. So we would do nightly patrols. When the Spectre people go home, we'd probably be there all through the night into the morning. We also do in-water surveys. We don't only research leatherback turtles, we do also hardshell, which would be green turtles, hawksbill turtles, and the odd loggerhead turtle. We also do some work on the nearby islands in the north. But most of the stuff is based in liver as well, so I do a lot of work with them. And when we're not doing that, we're probably doing seaboard work and surveys and other marine surveys, mangrove surveys. So I'm pretty entrenched in the whole conservation and ecosystem thing in Grenada. People may not see me a lot because I'm not a social butterfly. When I'm not doing my vet stuff, I'm probably in the wilderness somewhere. Coming out here to Africa, for instance, I'm here working with cheetahs. You know, cheetahs are critically endangered right now, so the population is very low. So I'm working with an organization that combat what you call illegal wildlife trade. So people take cheetah cubs from part of Africa, try to get them to the Emirates because they can get them for good money there. So they block them along the way, and we do the rehabilitation. We have sick animals to treat. So that's where I'm right now for a few more months. But I'll be back in Grenada soon before the end of the leatherback season, yeah?
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. We'd love to see you.
Dr. Carter, are you originally Grenadian?
Yes, I'm actually from the parish of St. David's. I'm born and raised in Grenada. I have been sort of a world traveler as Mr. Seals. This is my first time in Africa, but I did probably 20 something countries in Europe, the US, Canada, some of Central America, the Caribbean, those places. So I might have a bit of an accent.
Yes, you definitely do. Ms. Pitt, your Specto has a wide range of goals, which include community panel discussions, community and beach cleanups and replanting efforts, seminars and workshops, community tourism development, and so. Can you tell us about some of those activities that you've been involved in over the years, and what kind of impact do you think Specto would have made on the Grenada landscape?
Our mission and our vision, if I just combine them together, is to provide livelihood opportunities within St. Patrick's that is linked to the environment, and educating the people, not only of St. Patrick's, of environmental awareness on all other environmental issues, firstly as it pertains to St. Patrick's. So we do have two important conservation sites up here: the Leatherback Turtle Liverpool Beach Conservation Site and the Ramsar site, the wetlands of international importance. And that too, these two protected areas are the only of its kind in Grenada. And so when we got the mandate from the government of Grenada to be part of this conservation process, to do tours, guided tours, it also gave us the opportunity to raise awareness. Because we come from a history where the leatherback eggs, turtle eggs, I don't know, for some reason, they seem to think that it gives some kind of enhancements to male, to the males. I don't know.
An aphrodisiac, is that the correct word?
Well, is this the word? I don't even know. Anyway. And as a result over the years, and that's what we think, that the eggs, that is how it became endangered, because when you do research in it, you see just not in the Caribbean, Central America, wherever the leatherback goes, the poaching has been very high. And we are just fortunate in the Caribbean to be one of the 3 countries where the leatherback turtle comes to nest. Liberal Beach, one of the famous in Grenada. So in order to get people to understand the process at Liberal Beach, after being called all the turtle police and, Jar Beach is mine, I can come in anytime. How could you close the beach? When in Grenada we used to go into our beaches. And so we had a mammoth task before us to go out there. And I remember one of the inspectors in charge of the St. Patrick's police station, because the police is also mandated within that conservation regulation to be part of that process by ensuring the security of these conservation sites. In fact, the Inspector Inspector Rodney the other day said that to me, and they view it with high priority. He said to us, remember, we are legally entitled to close the beach. But while we are going to do so, y'all must step up y'all education, y'all awareness raising, because that is the only enforcement would not work alone. And he was quite correct. Enforcement would not work alone. And once people understand why they have to do something in Grenada, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I know about my people, they more than likely are going to commit to that ownership. All the time, in my experience, you have a few that will bum away. And so we have reached, I think Dr. Carter would say, last year there was some poaching, but I think we can maybe safely say between 85 to 90% or more of the poaching has been stopped. And for us, Inspector, there was an incident the other night that made us realize that, here what, maybe this is having some kind of building of mindset within the communities and the people in the communities. We used to get a lot of flack from the fishing, the guys who go out and do rock fishing in the night. And but we went to the beach the other night, 2 nights in fact, and we met all these cars there, and we were looking to start the tours, people on us. And the fishermen stopped their fishing, got into the cars and left the beach. And one of them saying to us, "Do quick, there is a turtle just up the beach." That's the kind of mindset that we wanted to get. Ownership of this wonderful conservation work that we have been lucky to be a part of. Grenada has been lucky to be a part of. And we didn't have that before, so sometimes you didn't even bother to tell them anything. Now they are leaving by themselves with their own convictions and actually participating with us in the conservation program. Dr. Carter mentioned about the fishermen, that they have engaged in working on the beach with them as part of the data collecting and research that they are doing. And so that's the ownership of it, we think, has been our best activity to date, given our awareness program, the ownership of the conservation site, and two, the lessening of the poaching of the eggs. We don't also, I must say there's a third. Whereas people used to just turn up at the beach and say, "Here, no, I'm not paying for to go and see no turtle. You know, turtle coming up on the beach all the time. Why must I go and pay for it? It's free. The beach is free." And that used to be a lot. We had a lot of back and forth, newspaper articles, people on the radio, everybody saying that this group, this Pecto, in it to just get money from people, and what they're doing with the money, and they're stopping people from going on the beach. Wow. We don't have that anymore. Very little of that. People know, and our biggest, and you talk about livelihoods, our biggest positive that has come out of it is that people understood that this was a job for a unemployed person from the village, and that is what broke the camel back. You are contributing to a job. Somebody here is working tonight because of your input. Yes. So that's it. We have done all kinds of other, be it in community centers. We even have by Javi, by Algae Shop, where one fisherman said after the presentation by Paul Phillip and the chief fish is after Mr. Isaac. Boy, my head's starting to hurt me. You know, it is not sufficient, and by no means we can say we are happy, you know, and we have reached it. No. We have a long way to go, and hopefully it's the generation after, so young generations that will be able to carry this and get the benefits of this work that we are doing in raising awareness on the conservation of endangered species. Thank you.
Oh, very well said, very well said. And typically that's what happens. The generation that come before has the responsibility to lay a foundation and to put things in place to make it more, you know, much more accommodating for the generations that come afterwards. Because one of the concerns that there is out there is that this generation seem to be consuming so much of Earth's resources, is that there's not going to be enough, you know, for those who come afterwards. And at this point, let's get to Mr. Mandoo. Now, you're a tour operator, and you mentioned about Fish Fry, which essentially is the Gulf Fish Friday Festival, an event that started back in 2005. It was the brainchild of Dr. George Vincent, with whom I had the opportunity to work along with to bring to fruition. And coming out of that, it served as the model for two other similar events that came afterwards: the St. Mark's Food Festival, the Sunset City Food Festival, right here in Victoria, where I am presently. And tell you the truth, it happened right out the street, just from where I'm sitting. And the Mount Morris Breakfast. So, Mr. Mandoo, can you tell us what kind of impact has the whole COVID-19 issue had on the Mount Morris Breakfast? No, the Mount Morris Breakfast, I should say, the structure, right? The management structure and the operation is a bit different to the Gulf Fish Friday Festival and to Sunset City Food Fest, in that, in the case of the last two, it has a management structure, a management team that run the operations and to provide the facilities and so for the people of the community who wish to participate, who's been vetted, because you have to be vetted and there had to be training for those people, and they come with their goods, they pay a fee for the infrastructure and stuff like that that's provided, and they would sell, and whatever they make, that's theirs, or they pay a fee for vending. In the case of Montgomery's, I believe it is a community initiative, and the resources, whatever is made from that, goes into community development. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But in addition to that, I want you to tell us, how did Mandoo Seals, a tour operator, become an environmentalist? Because one of the reasons I chose to invite you here is because there was a post on social media at one point in time where you were expressing your disgust, and I believe you were on George Grant's program too, speaking about it, with illegal dumping and so, in particular, very sensitive areas, so tell us about that, Mr. Seals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Host. You have to understand that it's all come down to our environment. This is, as you mentioned earlier on, about our future, or future generation. If there is no environment, there is no future generation. You understand? Our planet is our life support system. When we destroy it, we destroy ourselves. And that is why it is of paramount importance when you plan and how you go forward. I mean, you're hearing scientists and this one saying that and that one saying that, but this is all we have. And if you don't protect it, it will come back to bite us, and bite us big time. We're looking at global warming, we look at climate change, and it's a fact. Although some people don't believe it, some people do. But it's a fact of all what's happening around the world today. Even a little Grenada, and that is why on one breath you hear the politician, the bureaucrat would speak about the environment, but on the other hand, you look at the oyster bed in Carriacou, you look at the mangrove, you come back and do the same thing what they're preaching, you see? So this is how do you strike that balance? Yes, you have to create jobs, you have to create employment for people, as you mentioned in Goa, Victoria, and things like that. But if you have no environment, then you have nothing else. And that is the key, that's the bottom line to it. As Claudette said, look, it's amazing to start something in 2009, 2010, and in 10 years you could bring down the poaching by 89%, 80 or 90%. That's quite amazing, and it all becomes of education process. And then the people in the villages, they understand that it's much more valuable to protect the turtles than to eat them out. And that dollar, not just the tour guides who are on the beach at night and so, but it have a domino effect because they have children going to schools, they have family, so that whole multiplying effect. So always a love for the environment. I were around schools for 20 years speaking to children, so, and you can see the changes. I've seen the changes, we compared to what we used to do later before, just dump it anywhere. Now more and more we have the trucks coming right to your those steps to pick it up, and this is the way forward. I'm not very happy with these big so-called projects that they're speaking about. And why do you want to put a 500 rooms hotel in Libera? Okay, all you need is some small villas, some small bungalows, things like that. You have already total watching, boat watching. You could do a bit of rafting in the pond, all these things. But when you start talking about 500 rooms and you start destroying the environment, goodbye total, goodbye the Ramsar side, goodbye all these things, because the impact, you see, and people speaking about hotels and hotels and hotels, it's not just the big hotels, my brother. You have to have the infrastructure loaded, water, the food, electricity. Water always is a big problem. 30 years on from now, the south will be, we don't know water in the south, but little water, because water will be, that's what man going to fight for, not oil, the water will be water. So that's my goal, is to keep fighting. I'm the member of the Green Group, so we engage in, we had input in all sorts of things. Up to yesterday, we were with a Republic Bank. They want us to be on board with them to, for little ads and jingles and things like that. That's what we're doing. Claudette obviously is part of us as well. So that's our whole goal, to protect our environment.
Well, that's good to know, and I trust that you will tell us a little more shortly about the Grenada Green Group. Dr. Carter, you are out there in Africa now doing conservation work, and you mentioned about endangered species. In the Grenada situation, are we faced with any endangered species? How critical is it? And what are some of the steps that you think need to be taken to address such, if that is the case? We heard from Ms. Pitt about how successful we are being in terms of getting people to appreciate how significant it is for us to conserve our turtles and the transformation that's taking place. You have over 80% cooperation and taking place. So can you tell us a bit about that, about our endangered species, if any, and how critical are these elements to our well-being, to our livelihood?
So I'd like to merge in what both speakers said before me to answer your question. So to start again, Ocean Spirits has been doing work up there for the last this will be the 24th year. And as Ms. Pitt said, in the beginning, poaching was a big thing, and there was a good gap in breaching with the poaching. There were like 1 or 2 nests poached, but last year, because of the COVID regulations and we were not able to patrol the beach, poaching increased significantly. The other problem we have around there, some of the small islands would be critical seabird nesting islands, and people have been poaching the eggs. I mean, there is enough chicken in Grenada that you can get eggs if you need it, but they would go to these islands and poach buckets of eggs. And we've been trying to work on that as well, because if you start losing the seabirds, you would lose the fish stock, you lose the fish stock, you lose the tuna industry, and it's a slippery slope. As for the endangered species, we have, of course, everyone know the Grenada dove, Leptotilia wellsii, who is critically endangered. Its population was largely dependent on a specific part of the island. Now that part of the island have been sold for hotel development as well, another large hotel like 500 rooms or something. So we basically we have like 100 dove left in the wild, if that much, and we're putting them at risk to fill rooms in a location where we don't even have a water supply for the people who are living in that community now. And we're going to put 500 room hotel. Where does the waste go? Our coral reefs will be gone. Where do we get the water from? Even if you take like a desalination plant, the salinity of the water around there from a desalination plant to support such a large project would destroy the coral reefs. So we're basically taking $2 in our hand that costing us $10 from our pocket to fix the damages. And the problem is, I have a son, and I don't think my son would be able to experience half as much of the thing that I have experienced in Grenada, and I don't think I've experienced enough in Grenada so far. I've been from St. David's. I'm very passionate about that, because one of the best boarding sites and one of the most biodiverse ecosystem on the island was destroyed completely to put a hotel, and all the mangrove was destroyed. It was speaking of endangered species, it was a hawksbill nesting site. Hawksbill turtles are critically endangered. It was one of the best hawksbill nesting site on the East Coast. It was also a leatherback nesting site, because leatherback turtle will nest along the East Coast, but not as much as they do at Livera. And because they have protection at Livera with the tour guides, the Ocean Spirits, the police would be there. So the whole leatherback population at Livera would be protected. But the rest of the island is still at risk of poaching. People would still kill a leatherback turtle and only take a flipper. Like, why would you kill 1,000-pound animal to take a flipper? It's not logical, but they still do it. So we need to combat that, we need to go to the communities. We've been going to the communities, but we need to keep going to the communities. We need to make more public awareness. There was a slight change in the hunting season for hard shells. It used to be from April to September, and now they move it from May to September. But it's still there. You have a 5 months protection for a critically endangered species, which is protected around the world. You have 5 months protection, and you can hunt it for 7 months. So we need to flip that at least. So we need some sort of a plan going down to where we can protect these animals throughout the year. We have offshore islands where nesting animals are being killed before they lay their eggs, to take the eggs and to take their body. I mean, that's not sustainable. That's barbaric, basically. But even if you were to eat an animal, you give it time to reproduce. That's how you don't eat your sheep while it's pregnant. You give it time to make the lamb. You have more lambs, you can have more sheep to eat in the future. So we need to bridge that gap. And the thing is, we've been hearing a lot of stuff like the blue economy, we've been hearing about biodiversity and all this support, but everything I've been seeing for the last 2 years goes against everything that's being said. That's like somebody tell you they like you and then they punch you in the belly while you're shaking their hands, you know? So we destroy all the mangroves. We know all our coastline, most of the coastline on the east coast from Mount Hartman go all the way up. It's being transformed. The mangroves are being cut down. Little jetties are going, projects are going, hotels, houses. They're cutting down what sustained Grenada to put one hotel, two houses. So when you take away all these beaches and the beach destroyed, the coral reef destroyed, there's no more fish stocks. What would the tourists come to see? Concrete. I live in a place, I'm in a country right now with 5 million people who have never seen the ocean. And I come from a country with 100,000 people who can go on a different beach every day of the year. And it's different just to put it in perspective. So we do have endangered species there. We're not doing enough to protect them. Because even if everyone from Spectre and everyone from Ocean Spirits is on every beach every night, someone would still find a way to go and take a hawksbill turtle when it's nested. Someone would find a way to go and dig some eggs out of the nest. And we have to get in the community level because, as Ms. Pitt said, people in the community are now knowing, okay, this could bring jobs for my brother. This could bring jobs for my sister. We need to protect this. The fishermen understand that healthy turtle stock would give more fish, would give more lobster, you know? So they're starting to bridge the gap and by more public education so people could understand. Even though I'm a tuna fisherman, I need to protect this one seabird nest because it will in turn trickle down to give me a bigger tuna to catch maybe next month. And we need to find ways to bridge the gap. There have been people going out there, but I think, and I would take responsibility for this, I think the research community is at fault somewhere because we're doing a lot of research, but we're not finding ways to bring this research to John public, to the everyday man. So you could know we have an island that has 3,000 nesting seabirds that we need to protect so they can give a healthy coral reef, which would give a healthy bait fish stock, which would cause more tuna and marlin to be caught, which would help the economy. And I think the government and people of influence needs to capitalize on these opportunities because we shouldn't wait while we have the last board, for instance, or the last leatherback to decide, hey, we need to do something stringent. We have enough now that we can make a difference and make an impact to keep this going. But we need to change some of the laws. For instance, there is no reason why there is a 7-month hunting season on hard shells and only 5 months. So in the middle of the 7 months, the hawksbill turtle, which is critically endangered, is the middle of the nesting season. That's like June, go down June, July, August. And you can catch them legally. And the only difference is that people are landing turtles. The fisheries did make an attempt that you need to land at specific sites. But when you look at the numbers and you see they only caught 10 turtles this month, and you go to the fishermen and one man will tell you I caught 10 turtles in one day. So they're not landing at the specific landing site. So we need to set tariffs, we need to lobby at this. Unfortunately, you need to charge people so they know you need to do things the right way. Because we're not doing enough. And what will happen is, for instance, hawksbill turtle nesting in Grenada right now. Leatherback turtle nesting in Grenada. We used to have green turtle nesting in Grenada. We haven't seen a green turtle nesting probably in over 10 years. Green turtles are nesting all the way right over in Barbados. All the Barbados conservation turtle, they come over to Grenada, they get eaten. So all the work done in Barbados is being wiped out. As soon as they come visit, they get eaten. Loggerhead turtles used to be very common in Grenada. Before last year, I haven't seen any. Last year I saw 2. One we had to euthanize because someone shot it in the head with a spear gun and the turtle was too big for them to carry, but they shot it anyway. So we need to find ways to reach to the normal man who's out there to let him know why this is wrong and how protecting one animal or the other could help him and help his children in the future. So we have critically endangered animals, but we're not doing a whole lot to protect them. We're doing a lot of lip service because you will hear they're planning, like the whole blue economy plan was supposed to protect the ecosystem and biodiversity. But every project I've seen so far in this blue economy basically destroyed prime ecosystems. So I'm trying to understand, like we're saying a lot, but we're doing the other thing.
No. Well, I can tell you, and we have Brother John Calliste here. This is his setup. This is his network. But being the individual that I've come to know, and I believe he and Miss Pitt would have known each other before, right? John Calliste. I believe you can guarantee that Gem FM will be willing to provide you the opportunity for that sensitization. As you said, the research is being done, but we need to find different avenues, more avenues to get the information out. And I have no doubt that Gem FM, John Calliste, will be willing to play such a role. We have the talking point, which takes place on Friday and Saturday evenings. And we have the comfort zone where you are presently. And I'm certain that Brother John wouldn't have a problem in playing a role in helping with that sensitization. Brother John?
Yes, most definitely. Anything comes to educate and liberate my people.
No, but you're supposed to say hi to Miss Pitt first.
Yes. Claudette Pitt.
Hi, John.
How you doing, my sister?
You've been asking about
my
her,
comrade
she's been
sister.
asking about you and so on. And when I told her that you had come down with the COVID and things, she was so, concerned about your situation. And I was telling her that you're good now. So, here we are.
So, Sister Claudette Pitt, my comrade sister, I want to greet you, give you some revolutionary greetings. I haven't done that in many, many years to you. So, I want to say revolutionary greetings to you as well. And very much inspired by the work that you guys are doing. And Gem FM, our motto again, it comes from the revolution as well. Education is liberation. And I continue to believe that from our youth up until this day, that education is definitely liberation. And the more educated our people are about the environment, the more protective they will become of it. If you don't know what you don't know, you will always think what you're doing is right until you get to know the truth. So the whole exercise is to ensure that people are educated about what you guys are doing and what's the right thing to do. And I'm happy to hear that Claudette's daughter have had her become a evangelist for saving the turtle as well.
John. Well, it's so good to connect with you again. Yes. And I've heard of all the great work you're doing. We did. You remember the days it was education that broke the camel's back.
Yes.
Talk about that period that we all came back from. It was education, and that's what I learned then. That was the most important tool then. And that's why in my work today, it has become the most important tool for us at Specto to engage in that way, because that's what breaks the camel back. That builds mindset, change attitudes, change behavior. So John, I'm glad to know we're in the same page still. Well, we can't forget that.
You can't change that. No, you can't change that.
No. It was an important period in our life that taught us a lot.
The spot on these leopards are not painted on; it's engraved, so it would not come off. Yeah. Also, I want to say good evening to Mr. Mandoo. I happen to know him very well. Playing from Paradise, to be exact, brother. I never play for a football team there, and I was giving Pablo like a side joke about a girlfriend that you had in Paradise as well.
Man, let you know your secret.
You had a girlfriend in Paradise. Very nice.
John, I thought it was Ladig. I didn't know about Paradise.
No,
that's why I don't know
Mandoo. Yeah, but he's a nice guy. I've seen him play soccer. He work on the airport there. And he always a cool brother. So again, I'm happy to see you engage in that kind of environment as well. I heard your comment about the being dying with the different organization. And that's a good commitment to make. When talking about dying to organization, I've been committed to a cause. I have been there, so I understand what that is to sell out completely to an organization, to a cause that you're willing to die for. The young brother here. Again, I want to congratulate you on your work that you're doing, not only in Green, but international, being an ambassador of Green Line, that representing Grenada as an ambassador in that area, and bringing awareness around the world, not just to Grenada, but to the world, the endangered species and so on. It's all about educating people and helping to not only liberate people, but liberate the animals and the other aspect of life that we need to survive. You could take out man from the equation, the environment will still exist. You know, because men came after everything was set in place to manage the environment, and you guys are doing a good job of managing the environment. And where there is lack of management, everything fails. You see, God wants us to have dominion over the earth, and that's what you guys are doing what God expects us to do, is to manage his resources. And that's key to managing God's resources. I think he will hold you guys in high esteem for doing the management of his resource, you know, and that's what he has to do. So wherever there is no lack of management, everything falls apart, and you guys are doing your part to help manage and to have dominion over God's environment. So I want to thank you again for being here, and I'll let you go back to Comrade Raphael Paul from Sunset City, Ambassador of St. Mark's.
He's always giving me some kind of title. Anyway, Ms. Pitt, you mentioned about the wetlands, and Dr. Carter spoke a while ago of its significance for nesting. The Ramsar site, can you tell us a bit more about it and its significance, its significance to our, our whole ecosystem?
Okay. The Ramsar site, which is Liverpool Pond, is a wetland that holds maybe some of the greatest biodiversity as an ecosystem in Grenada, and in particular for St. Patrick's. You have all types of mangrove there where the fish comes to spawn. So it is really critically linked to our food security in terms of providing fish for the table and nutrition. And Dr. Carter is right in saying that it is an important area of biodiversity. And
yes, if I may interject here, Ms. Pitt, as you mentioned about food security, I've had the opportunity to see guys on the lake itself doing the fishing and holding 20-pound fish and so on. Nice, size fish. So I've had the experience and I've seen it, and I appreciate how critical it is.
So most importantly, it also provides a spawning for the fish eggs to come in and to be able to lie in the mangrove and turn and produce fishes that at a point in time every year goes back in the ocean. It's a very fascinating experience. I do not hold all the scientific and understand all the science that goes on there, but I'm saying this too in the context of the development. What happens there is at certain point in the year, the lake becomes filled with water, and that water, because of the rainfall, comes off Pitt, and after the trees and so absorb a lot of that water, because Pitt is almost a mountain, it's then filtered into the Liverpool Pond, and at some point in the rainy season the lake rises, because it's much more water now, and at some point, what the local people say, the lake busts. And all of a sudden it will create an opening in the sand and comes out, and the water from the pond goes into the ocean, and the water from the ocean goes into the pond, and that happens for a few hours, maybe sometimes a couple of days. And when that is finished, the pond closes up. Now, during that time, the local people, they do a lot of because now the fish, because the water is going down, the fish comes to the top, and they do a lot of hunting and fishing, and host a lot of dry fish. At that time, if you pass through Rosalie, you'd see lake fish drying on lines in the sun, and then they use it and pack it and it becomes an important source of food, of protein for them during the year. And in the meantime, the eggs go out into the ocean and eventually becomes the tuna, etc., that you find in the marine offshore of St. Patrick's. So it provides a whole number of livelihoods. But for Rose Hill people, Liverpool people, and Rosalie, some form of protein for that extra fish that may come to the top when the oxygen level drops, when the water is going into the ocean. And then it provides the fish stock that the fishermen, I see the boats from where I live all the time, up and down, and that provides fish for St. Patrick's people. So it's a whole lot of livelihood that's taking place there. And for us, any interference by man in that whole system will create a problem. There was one year while they were doing the Gulf Coast, I think it was. The guys must be asked, a machine operator, you know, this thing comes as a trickle. You will go up the beach and see this trickle coming down into the ocean. And by the time you walk down from the beach, it's now a big drain. But they couldn't wait long enough, so they asked the machine to open the drain physically. So, you know, they could come down and they could catch the fish quicker. What ended up happening was with the normal flow of that whole ecosystem, the lake would close at some point. And what happened, much more water came out of the lake, and the lake closed and left all the water on the beach, which eventually formed another pond on the beach. A lot of people don't know this. They thought the pond was there all the time. That created this pond on the beach that it only took climate change and drought to dry it up. And in that pond, we used to get all kind of crabs, and there was another set of activity that used to go on there and created its own biodiversity. But that was not normal. That was an abnormal activity that came about because of man's intervention. We like to interfere too much. And so our concern about whatever development goes into that area, it is going to destroy, it's going to affect whatever naturally has to take place there. Where is the water that's coming? Where is the water going to? All the gray water and stuff. And already it has been impacted by all the trees they cut down, because the trees are not absorbing the water now. All that water is going into the lake. So you're having, you know, a huge rise in that river pond. And so other activities to come and impact it. Because, you know, in that ecosystem of that Ramsar site, that is why, because of all of this great biodiversity that takes place there, with even the blade of grass, that's why it was approved as a Ramsar site of a wetland of international importance. And I don't know how we are going to maintain that. I hope they have the answers, you know, they're the scientists and whoever is, have the answers of how all of that is going to be protected with any kind of development that takes place there. So that's my answer. With the Ramsar site of international importance that was created, I can't remember the exact year, can't remember now. But also too, the importance of people and participating in decisions like those. When we were going about the different communities talking about the Ramsar site, that, you know, we just heard it was going to be a Ramsar site, is approved. Nobody knew what it was. I remember some people in Liverpool, in our community meeting, saying to Forestry then, who did the presentation on behalf of SPECTO, well, how dare you go and approve and sign a convention that we, the people in Liverpool who owns this lake, you know, the lake is named after us, and we don't know anything about it. And you see, in the absence of that kind of ownership and the interventions where anything can happen there, is of great concern. Because if people understand what happens and know that some of this activity can't take place, but at the same time too, we have to understand there is a great need for livelihood. The livelihood that comes up, the leatherback turtle and the Ramsar site. So we are about to create, Government of Grenada was able to get some funds through them, CDB and IFAD, to start what you talked about earlier, the kayaking and the trailing and the bird watching, and so as extra livelihood activities around the Ramsar site. And through those activities, we hope we can bring up more awareness of what is happening there, create some ownership, more ownership, by people who will then get the opportunity to come to do the bird watching or the kayaking, and getting to understand through that the awareness of keeping that Ramsar site, that wetland, that Grenada wetland of international importance, intact and free from any kinds of interventions that could happen there.
Before I return to Mandoo, it's reportedly there's been some conversation between Spectre and the developers on that issue. Can you give us any insight into that?
Well, I hear people say that, but I don't know about that. Spectre was invited as part of the community and a stakeholder to a series of stakeholder meetings to look at the environmental and social impact of the development. And so we've been engaged as one member of the community in giving our views and looking at what is happening. And we have engaged the consultant who is doing the ESIA and was able to indicate with him with a written document about our concerns for the development. And I must say, we're not saying that we don't want development. We're saying that we want a development that recognizes the ecosystem of the area, and to plan and design whatever development that's taking place there to enhance what is already there. And that's our position. Because we know jobs are important. When you hear people taking their lives, committing suicide in Rose Hill, especially among young men, you know that there is a desire to be economically independent, and I understand that the government would be faced with that kind of issue, in able to meet the demands of its governance. But at the same time, they also have to understand, if you can't kill, how do you say, you can't kill the hand, you can cut off the hand that gives you bread, because as we all right here agree, the environment is what gives us water, food, shelter, and clothing. And we can't cut off the hand that feed us. So I hope the developers and whoever is involved in this development will take into consideration that if they interfere with the hand that feeds us, therefore they are going to be creating a hungry generation to come. And I don't think any of us wants to know that our grandchildren, I take my grandchildren when they come here and bring them down by the lake, make them dig earthworms and put onto a thing and fish. And they were so proud to get their little fish that they were allowed to throw it back into the sea. You know what great education and how impactful that has been for them to understand this process. Would we have that? Would we have that in future? So I hope they will. They never really engage us one-on-one. We were just part of the general stakeholder conversation that was taking place.
Okay. Brother Mandoo, as I mentioned earlier on, you did do that post that highlighted this whole issue of illegal dumping. How critical do you think illegal dumping is a challenge to us as a nation, and how extensive do you find it to be?
It's a huge problem. You got to look at, take for instance, Perseverance, our main dumping site in Grenada. Of the lifespan, probably less than 10 years. Okay, 80% of what goes to the landfill probably can be composed in our backyard. Are we going to continue? You cannot just create a landfill. Nobody wants their backyard. It takes a lot of land to make a landfill. So this is the whole issue we have to look at. We make a step forward that we obviously ban single-use plastic bag. That's a big plus, okay? But there again, there's a lot more we can do to save the environment by doing your own composing and things like that. So these are the challenges you face, and it all these type of forums we have now, these kind of public awareness. That's how you get to achieve anything. If you just chime in a bit on what Claudette was saying, if you, let's for instance, you're speaking about 400 rooms of a room hotel. That's double that with people. Let's say each room's two persons per room. That's 800. Plus staff, plus local. You have to look at the carrying capacity of the area, how much destruction you'll do with an amount of people in one area at any one time. All these things you have to think about. Now, when you speak about these things, people think that you're against them, but it's not against anybody. This is what I call constructive criticism, and we have a right to speak about it. It's not pointing finger to anybody, to any politician or whatever. You know, this is our talk. This belongs to each and every one of us, no one to the people, and we have a right to speak about it. So these are the things you have to look at. As I said, the carrying capacity, the amount of people in the area, is an environmental site. How many people, you want to put 1,000 people at one time in that area? It's not going to work for us. You know.
You know, I am listening to you all and your responses. And a while ago, Dr. Carter, he spoke about being from St. David's and the way all of the mangrove has been cleaned out. As someone, I'm from Guam and Victoria. I have dual citizenship, you know. And I had the opportunity some years ago, because I never knew that site existed until I became involved with community tourism, you know, activities and so on. That's when I got to know about that site. And I was so blown away when I got there to see those migrating birds coming here during that period and so on, the different type of waterfalls and so that I saw. And when I saw the pictures were one thing, but when I actually visited the site and see how the place has been laid bare, I mean, it just turned me inside out. And the interesting thing is that the gentleman who introduced me to that site is now in league with, he finds that nothing wrong has been done. You know, he is defending what is happening there. In addition to that, you spoke about the various nesting sites of the different bird species and so. And we have all of those other little islands and so where you say that they do. As someone who spent some time in Carriacou and going on to White Island and so, I know that White Island is another nesting place for turtles. I've seen people, you know, we're on the beach and you see they disappear for a while and then they come back with turtle eggs and stuff like that. I've experienced that. Is there any mechanism in place for protection on these outlying islands and so on? You know, is this being looked into?
Yes, let me start by answering your question first. So a lot of these small islands in the Grenada Grenadines, I do a lot of work with environmental protection of the Caribbean, that's EPIC. So doing seabird surveys, and they study a lot of these islands. Some islands are private, and there are a few more in the St. Vincent Grenadines. St. Vincent has been doing a lot more than Grenada has been doing with the whole protection, because there are islands of international significance who have, I think, more than 1% of the global population of a certain nesting seabird, and it is protected. We have islands who are almost as important. Unfortunately, it does not have the same protection as the St. Vincent Grenadines. But what have happened is that some of these islands protect themselves, because to get on the island, it's hard to land. They're very cliffs, they're devil nettle, it's really rocky, so it's dangerous for the person. Like, you would damage your boat trying to get to these islands. So just the terrain protects. That's why the boats would probably choose such an island to nest on. But unfortunately, we are not doing enough to protect them. And it doesn't have to be year-round protection, because some birds would be nested maybe from March to May. Some might be nested in December, just, to protect them. A problem we're having on these islands is a lot of invasive species. So people would put cats on the island, they put sheep and goat, and the sheep and goat would eat away a lot of the habitat, the grass and the bush, and then the birds have nothing to make nests with, no shade, and that would kill them too. The other thing people would do, they would literally go on these islands and light it afire. They just catch wildfires. On big nesting islands, they destroy everything with fires to probably plant some peas or something. Like, you could plant peas behind your house here, but like, people do those things. And there have been, like, it is illegal to, in Grenada, it is illegal to take, like, interfere with a nesting animal. So if you take a nesting seabird or the eggs or a nesting turtle, it is illegal. However, it is not heavily enforced. So we have to find a way to enforce it, but if you can't get enough people, if Liberia, for instance, is too remote to probably put police 24/7, imagine sending a police to one of those little islands where they have to climb a rock to get on top. So it's a bit difficult to enforce, but if we do something like making one of these islands a national heritage site, like Diamond Rock, who has maybe 7 or 8 different species nesting there every year, you make that into a national heritage site, you make it part of the people, so we can say, hey, we have this island there, this is what's happening. You see some of those, like, for instance, National Geographic films. These things, what you see on National Geographic, is happening right outside us, so there's right there, with the Dorados and the flying fish and the frigate boat. This is happening in Grenada. But we shun that aside because it's a bit remote, yes, and we need to find ways to bring that to the people. To add another thing to what they said earlier with the dumping, for instance, because I spend a lot of time in the wilderness, you would say, there's a lot of areas in these small keys and little peninsulas along the East Coast where people would go. You pay these people to bring the trash to the dump. They drive down there. People from my own community would go and dump on the beach. Like, how could you dump on a beach where you live? They pay them. Someone got paid from St. George's to drop some trash in Perseverance, drove to Latent Beach and dumped it on Latent Beach. When I saw the numbers, I called people until I found out who this trash belonged to, who they paid, and we found out it was somebody from my own community who got paid to drop this trash in Perseverance and decided to drop it on their own beach where they live. So we have a big problem with that. So that dumping is a big thing. But each household, like as a kid growing up in St. David's, we had a compost heap. Everyone had a compost heap. I've gone by people now, I've seen them throwing chicken, vegetables, they're putting that in the trash. Those are things you could put behind your house to create biomass. I've stopped putting any biomaterial in the trash. I've taken away all paper and cardboard from my trash. The only thing I couldn't find something to do with was the plastic. And I tried to use as less plastic as possible. And I'm just one person. Imagine if everyone in the community decides to set up some compost heap. Back in the days, you had what you call the picking bucket as well, but nobody grows pig like that anymore. So everything from the kitchen basically go in this bucket. Now all of that is going in the trash. So you have a problem in Perseverance, which is not managed adequately. Let's leave it as that, where you have a lot of biomaterial building up gas and methane gas. I'm surprised Perseverance doesn't explode every week. That's why it's always burning, because whenever a fire starts, there's so much gas trapped under there that it keeps burning for weeks, and that is unhealthy. So we have so much plastic. There's so much ways now. You could turn plastic into bricks. You could turn plastic into fuel. You have things you could do with the trash other than just ramming it, because how high will you go? You ram the trash, you get 1,000 feet mountain of trash, and then what do you do? You know. So we need to find better ways to manage our waste. Try to get people back into the whole composting culture. Because composting was a big thing. And now we're throwing away chicken. People who don't have dogs, imagine a whole chicken carcass, you put that in the trash to send to Perseverance. Go give the neighbor dog, or do something with it. Oh, I have a question for you, Raphael.
Miss Pete, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
a man
Did you say
from
something else?
Victoria, which would probably be a Hurricanes fan, be best friend with a man from Paradise FC.
What was that?
You know the football rivalry with the Paradise and the Hurricane?
Okay, yeah. yes. That rivalry, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Hurricane Halifax.
Miss Pitt, I saw you shaking your head, when Mandoo was speaking and Dr. Carter was speaking about the dumping. People being paid to go dump the waste and just dumping it in all kind of arbitrary places. And I know that you all have been having significant challenges in Savane Swaze with that issue and have to be constantly cleaning up, doing major cleaning in Mount Rodney Bay and all of that. What has it been like for you all in recent time? Are people still dumping things in Savane Swaze?
It is not.
I mean, that grass patch there is such a wonderful picnicking site.
Not as much.
Okay.
I would say after Ivan is when the culprits, when people were repairing their house, and we had to move out truckloads and truckloads of garbage from both Savane Swaze and River and Twine Beach. It is not as bad, but it's still happening. I know at one point, because some of the community of River Sally was involved with us. There was one time I remember they were able to identify, as Dr. Carter's pointing out, which truck would go and dump. And you would be surprised to know who does the dumping. Who would suppose you pay them. And I remember myself having to dump personal stuff. I have to ensure that when the truck leaves here, the little jitney, that they go to Perseverance, because you pay them and they're going to dump it anyway. I've seen, when we weren't aware of it, pieces of my house that was broken up after Ivan, it's Savane Swaze. It is not as bad, but littering, I'm on G3 with Mandoo as part of representing Inspector, and I can relate to what Mandoo and Dr. Carter is talking about. It is a big problem, and the levels of education that we have to do in order to get people to stop dumping. It's listen, we put up billboards on Bathway Beach. We have engaged in how many cleanups, beach cleanups, cleaning up the kids, the schools, Mount Rose, the Rose Hill Young Volunteers, every cleaning up. We advertise, we talk about it. But come Easter Sunday, come Easter Monday, come Independence Day, and I want to stay here. We have identified is the ages between 13 and 35 are responsible for that kind of litter. When we have a program on Easter weekend where we deliberately go to the beach and distribute garbage bags to every little group that is cooking, and normally over the years you would find that they would say, we expecting to get this bag, so they will fill the bag and bring it to, we have extra bins. I think Ocean Spirits too have given extra bins to that area, and we would put, and there was some level of compliance up until 6 o'clock Monday evening. And when the party starts Monday night, you would not want to see the beach next morning. That was almost 80% clean on Monday evening. This year was the worst. Ocean Space, I saw them do the cleanup there yesterday for Earth Day, and the amount of bags. And we did clean up, we did some level of cleanup Easter, on Easter Sunday and the Sunday before. We distributed the bags Easter Monday. You know, we never saw some of the bags. People went home with the bags instead of using it for garbage. And they still throw the garbage. So the kind of awareness and level of education that we have to do, it will take all of us, everybody, in order to get some kind. But as Mandoo correctly say, it is only until we get some kind of enforcement that will give the police force or whoever the wardens will be. Unless we do enforcement, we have a long way off in combating the kind of change we want to see with littering in Grenada. So yes, that's why I was shaking my head, because I do agree with both of them and the things that they were saying. It is a big problem. As Dr. Carter said, wonder why Perseverance hasn't blown up as yet. But you know, maybe we under protection. We may be too beautiful and too much a great people. We can't vanish off the earth like that. But yes.
Brother Mandoo, you said a while ago, earlier on, you did speak about that organization, Grenada's, what's the name of it? Grenada's Green Group?
Oh, Green Group, yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, and what are some of how long it's been around, and what are some of the activities and that you are involved in?
Okay, Grenada Green Group, we started 7 years ago. I'm the co-founder with my good friend Ian. Ian is an English bloke, but he lived here all his life, for probably about 20 years, so he's Canadian as well. So we're very, very close. So is
he a tall slender person?
That's right. Yeah, you know very well. Yeah.
I met him in Las Vegas. Yeah.
That's right. He used to do tours for us, sensation tours. He do German, I do English. So we've been really, really buddies for donkey years, as we say in Grenada. And the boat, I went to him and said, look, we got to do something about this littering in Grenada. So 7 years ago, we formed the Great Green Group. We had an approach about clean up and so, but we realized over the last few years, it's not working. So we've taken a different approach now. Is instead of we have to just, because I give an example, we did a clean up in up in Simoon the Sunday, and then we passed back there the Monday. It's like we did nothing, So that's where the point is. Instead of we have to we try and go the way of the prevention, prevent people from doing the education part of it. Then have to go back and clean up, because people been clean up for years and years and years, and it doesn't change anything. But they get people the education of why you shouldn't do it, the impact of on the environment, on the marine life, and all these sort of things. Why you shouldn't show all these big, let's say the farmers, these big plastic bags into the rivers, because you're up in the ocean. The plastics it breaks down into small microplastics. The fishes eat the plastics, we eat the fishes. So you see more signs of cancer and all these things, and they increase. That whole sort of domino effect. We were close to government working on the abatement of the Litter Act of 2015. Now this is going 6 years now, and there is no enforcement. The police hasn't got a proper documentation to charge anybody. There's no enforcement. There are no little wardens. So you have all these laws just there making cobweb on the shelf, and there's no enforcement. You have the Noise Pollution Act. You have all these things. So this is the problem. And we hasn't got the law to back us up, so not much you can really do if you have no enforcement. So this is part of our plan. We're trying to spread the scope more and more with different villages due to people like Claudette and other people from the different parishes and so as well. We have contact in Guave and in Victoria and St. Andrew, and that's the way we're going about it. So we're doing a lot more of us. As I said, we're trying to work with Republic Bank and other entities and so. So that's the whole essence of the whole Grenada Green Group.
You say you have contacts in St. Mark's, so I'm just only just becoming aware of that. How do I line up myself to be associated with stuff?
You'll be hearing from us. We're going to put you on. If you're on the chat, you can just send me your email address, and we can put you on a mailing list.
Okay.
And things like that. In Guam, we have Sister Judy and Mr. What's that guy name who works with them?
Ubeni Langain?
Mr. Langain and so as well. So it's nice to have another contact probably in St. Mark. So if we have your email, we will keep in touch with you. So this is the kind of rapport we need to get more and more people. So the Dragnet will be one big family. You can't do it in isolation. That's how it is. Claudette has been tremendous work in St. Patrick and things like that.
Yeah, because based on what you're saying, you know, I am involved in the community as well. You and I, our acquaintance developed through my involvement in the Guam community. As I said, I have dual citizenship, so I am equally involved in the St. Mark's operations and functions. So I can be instrumental in, you know, or assist in facilitating or in making to happen some of these programs, some of these intervention programs, this sensitization, you know, options that are available to us, you know, and I would really like to play a role in that, not just in addition to what we'll be doing here. Okay?
Thank you so much. So as I said before, when you leave, you can just put your email on the chat, so I'll just write it down.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We see that. Well, how should I put this one? There is that issue, Dr. Carter, of these mega projects which you spoke to before, and the kind of impact that it's likely to have or that it has. And the three of, well, you've mention has been made about our governments, and Mandoo just mentioned about laws and so being passed, and there's no enforcement. It's like things that's just sitting on the shelf. The police hasn't been provided with an appropriate mandate for enforcement. And so, but we see our government has consistently been able to raise resources, financial resources and so, through programs that has to do with the protection of the environment. And we have been giving ourselves, you know, credits as being one of the foremost, you know, green inclined, for want of a better word, in the, you know, eco-friendly islands in the region. What does that say for us and for our future, given the fact that government is able to get money from these environmental protection sources, and then we turn around and we do the total opposite? And is there any mechanism or any systems in place that we can alert the providers of these resources as to what's happening, so that they can have an input, they can play a role in ensuring that our authorities do the right thing or they lose the fundings?
That one go right up the alley, right? So a problem we have is that a lot of these things, as I said earlier, we have a lot of things on paper, written. We have these marine protected areas which are not really protected. So whenever there is funding opportunity, you hear that this thing has been launched and this thing has been established, but nothing is actually done on the ground to maintain it. So a lot of things they signed up. There's a lot of stuff Grenada signed up. Even the Ramsar site, actually, to add back to the Ramsar site that was supposed to be expanded, but now to facilitate the new hotel project, they would be lessening on the Ramsar site so that the hotel can get part of the beach. I saw that in a video from the last meeting with consultants. So a lot of the things, it seems when there is money to being given away for us, like if you need a beach protected, all of a sudden you would hear this beach is protected and to get the money, but no one is being held accountable. Even with the Hawks Bay Tour, the Grenada is signed up to one of these international organizations, And by the mandate and the rules, they're not supposed to be hunted critically endangered animals and can hunt oxtail for 7 months in Grenada. So there is not a check system. There's a lot of things being passed, and what we call we have paper protected areas, because on paper you see it is written, and there will be some what you call they stall the system. So you have this set up, you put the guidelines, you put the boundaries, but you never gazette it. So it's not actually a law. So everything goes on as normal, while this area here is like scheduled on the map to be protected or to be a marine managed area, but it's not there as the law. So people go business as usual, but to the international community, this is what we're doing. There was an act that we signed up to have, I think, at least 25% of our coastline protected by a certain period of time. There's a couple other acts that we do sign up to take this for international funding, but as a person on the ground, I'm not seeing it happening. And there's lots of people who I'm involved with. We do a lot of work too, with picking up stuff on the coastline, even the mangroves. The largest mangrove site on the island has been destroyed. The second largest one was flattened just to do a hotel. And look, the mangrove is coming back. The third largest one that recovered from Hurricane Ivan has been flattened again. And with the whole carbon emissions thing that we signed up to limit to decrease our carbon emissions by a certain period of time, adult mature mangrove is one of the highest carbon sequestration plants in the world. So we have something to bring down our carbon, but we destroy it to put up a hotel, to plant 2 mango trees and a coconut tree in the yard and some grass, you know. So we're signing these things, and there are processes. Some are there on paper, but it's not being enforced. There is no accountability. The others are going like 90% of the way, and they stop at the last 10%. So it's not gazetted. So the Ramsar site in Livera is the only one I think that's fully gone through the full process on paper. The other one would be like the marine protected area in Molony and these places. When they had international funding, they had wardens there, they have everything there, they got boats, they got all these things done. And when the international funding is finished, they send home the people, and it's just there. So we have a marine protected area on paper. You would drive there any day of the week you pass there, you would see people fishing in that area because it's not being enforced, it's not being maintained. So there's a lot of stuff we're signed up to, but we're not being held accountable for it, and they just sign up to more things. Even if you read the whole mandate of the blue economy, what you see and what you get is 2 different things. So I can't answer that question, because we have a lot of things that we're supposed to be doing and we're taking money to do. And so far, nobody's being held accountable for it. So it keeps going on in this cycle.
Wow. What a situation. Ms. Pitt, final question for you for the afternoon. With all that we have spoken about, what are some of the final thoughts that you would want to leave with us with regards this whole environmental concerns that we have in this country?
Okay, I listened to Dr. Carter, and he's right. But I would say one thing. Spectre was given the mandate to be in a co-management arrangement with Government of Grenada to protect the conservation site of the leatherback turtle. And we are using the mandate and what it gives us to do work that could influence mindset and change behavior. Educate people and to make them become aware. It's a lot of work. This is not no easy work. But we are using it because it's given us the chance through whatever regulations that was done, SRO 15 of the leatherback conservation site, to do the kind of work, to do the kind of awareness that I said that could change people's attitude. And so if people become aware and take ownership and understand their role as the owner of Grenada's assets, they then might be able to influence the kinds of actions that should be taking place reference to what Dr. Carter was talking about. Because it's only political will, it's only for government has political will to do X, Y, and Z. It is going to be done. I don't want to say done, but it can become a little more in the interests of governance that we can get ahead, especially in the area of environment. We are signing treaties. We are doing so much, and we are. I think there was a plan to talk about becoming the climate smart country of the world, a climate smart city, and we're still not ensuring just the very basic things that is needed to get to that space. Simple litter. The emissions, the culling of the mangrove, Dr. Carter is right. You know, you can't talk about climate smart city and don't wonder the thing that we naturally have to take care of emissions, that you cut it out. So, but I think sometimes too, we take for granted that people know. I didn't know, and I am grateful for the awareness and the time that was taken and the education to build my awareness to be where I am today. Because I remember saying to Joseph Antoine years ago on the Mount Hartman, I can't remember which development, when he came and he said to me, you know, and I said to him, what are you talking, Joseph? Couple dozen birds to 500 jobs? That was my position. Really, honestly, and I meant it. Today, I'm not there, but it took a process of awareness and being exposed to education and understanding why, if it's the one Grenada dove that is living in the world on earth today, is the one Grenada dove that is worth saving. So I think we have to do a lot. Those of us who are engaged and has taken and has given the commitment to the safeguarding of our environment for generations to come, have a lot of work to do in raising awareness so we can get there. And you never tell who you might influence with that. We take for granted that some people know. A lot of people don't know. And that's the role as people who are keen on saving and safeguarding our environment in Grenada. We have to take that role much, much, much more seriously. That will be my closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pitt. It really is a pleasure having you on this program here this afternoon, along with Brother Mandoo. And Brother Mandoo, what can we expect going forward from the Grenada Green Group, and in your closing remarks? And while you're at it, can you tell us what are your expectations for our tourism product coming out of COVID? You know, post-COVID, how soon do you think we like to have some worthwhile tourism activity? How soon would our community tourism events, you know, we be able to come back on stream?
Yeah, I will go with the Green Group first. We expect a lot from us now as we have more and more contact in the rural communities and things like that. So, as I said, we achieve a lot in the 7 years since we've been around, and we're hoping to achieve much, much more in another 7 years or even less. On the tourism aspects of it, it's touch and go. But what happened out there with COVID is hard to tell. I can't see much happening for the remainder of the year. Probably small. You may see a cruise ship come the end of the year, or maybe not. Few other hotels, Spice and due to open in October. Obvious Royalton as well. For now. But let's wait and see. But I think we have to bite the bullet for this year, and then we're looking at the following year, 2022, see what's going to happen. On the other hand, based on all you were saying, when you're speaking about this pure Grenada brand, and then you see what is happening on the other side of it, you understand, this whole pure Grenada brand, what are we marketing, what are we telling people to come here to see, you understand? Are they want to come, take for instance, you go to Cancun, or you go to Cozumel, and you see these massive 8, 9, 10-story hotels, you know, and things, and half a mile down the road you see the poverty is unbelievable. Where does the money go? It stays outside. It brings very, very minimal jobs, you know what I mean? And that is why our people has to get involved in not just the maids and the gatherers, and so we'll have to get involved in the managerial skills. Let them own the big money too, you know, the managers in all different fields. And so this is the level we have to start looking at, not just the bottom line. We've gone through that for too many 20 years. A lot of hotels had to bring in an international chef, an international manager. We're supposed to have the resources right here, our people to hold these jobs too as well, and supposed to have the first preference too as well in it. That's the only speak of mark. Let us raise the bar in each and every aspects of it, not just the little bit of it. So, as I said, I'm not have very much hope for this end of this year, but let's look at next year, please, Lord, and see what happens based on how Mr. COVID go on and whatever. The bottom line is, my friend, to be honest with you, with all these things, I think there are too many people on the planet. The planet cannot sustain 7.5 billion people. You talking in 30 years' time, you have like 10 billion people on this planet. There be no water, there be no food. Man not going to fight for oil. Man going to fight for water. There's too many people on the planet. China and India have 40% of the world's population. It's madness, right? And then the wealth is not distributed. 1% of Americans own all the wealth in America. 3% of the world's population own all the wealth. So just a few own all the wealth. So that's why people are going to rebel, you know. Thank you.
Dr. Carter, over in Somaliland, any final words as we close for the afternoon?
You have to forgive, my eyes are getting heavy. It's almost midnight now.
I know that's why I don't want to be any longer.
Water is the most precious commodity out here in the desert, eh?
Okay.
But no, like, I think as a people, we have to find a way to get Grenadians feeling like Grenada is ours again. That way it used to be. Most the young Grenadians now, based on what is happening, Grenada is not ours anymore. We don't feel that sense of ownership. You go to the beach, someone say, you can't sit here anymore, move away. You know, the little things, the smallest things. So the whole and then when you add that in with the whole wealth gap. So when before, as a child, if a tourist was to land on our beach and you cook and you invite them, they can eat a plate of food. You find out, you ask them if they know someone you met like 5 years ago, everybody happy, they go back home. Right now, if you're on the beach, you see a foreign looking person come, you're angry, you're annoyed, because why are they taking my beach now? They already take this one, they take Passages, they take this, and that's the spirit what's being, it's brewing in the population. So they're trying to push the whole tourism thing, and by doing that, like you're plummeting everyone to push a tourism message out there. But we need to change up what kind of tourism we do. We have enough natural resources there that the people who actually spend money. Now, I've been a tourist myself in many countries, and the people who spend money is not the people that come for one day or go to an all-inclusive hotel, because what they pay to that hotel, they don't have to buy food, they don't have to buy drinks, they don't have to buy transport, they don't have to take a taxi, they don't come out there. That hotel made that money. You need people who come with their family every year. They go and they rent a house in the back of Grenville somewhere. They buy a car. They fill like the house with groceries from the supermarket. Every day they eat at a different restaurant. These are the people that would put money into the economy. That's the kind of tourism we need to be after. Because Grenada have a unique niche and we're not tapping into it. We're basically sacrificing what we have. We destroy our ecosystem. We're changing everything that the people who actually spend the thousands of US come for. To take people that spend $2 the minimum. They say you have to spend $5, they spend $5 and they leave. And we're destroying the things that would actually, we could use tourism and make a significant income, but we're not tapping into that because we want to have more hotels. We can't have more hotels than the Bahamas. We can't have more coastline properties than Barbados.
We've lost you?
Get frozen on that side. I think his internet want to sleep as well.
Yeah, Dr. Carter internet want to go to sleep also. Well, what a pity. Right at the end, anyway, we've gotten most of what we needed to have from you gentlemen and from this goodly lady here this afternoon. It really was a pleasure to have the three of you. I think we really got some, some important and critical information here this afternoon, and I'm certain many people would be very appreciative of what was presented here this afternoon. And I will be cutting some small clips to share around that address some particular issues so that I can share it around. And Dr. Carter is back with us.
No, he's
You want
not.
to come?
Exactly.
Yeah, connection dropped.
Yeah.
Yes, I realized that you want to complete what you were saying before you go
let
to
me close
sleep.
it up. Let me close it up. So again, I was saying, like, we need to increase, if we're going to be pushing tourism as a sustainable plan, we need to increase the quality of the jobs that we give it to Grenadians. As Brother Seal said earlier, why don't we have cooks and managers? You only have cleaners, gardeners, low income. The people who get these jobs, they have a salary, but they can't increase their quality of life. They can't even maintain their family. So you're talking jobs, but you're not giving any significant jobs to increase the quality of life or even the standard of living. So if we're going to push tourism, we need to tap into a niche that facilitates the Grenadian culture, the Grenadian people, and the landscape that we have. We can't destroy all our natural resources to put hotels, to then make New York City in sorties for what? For people leaving New York City to come to New York City. It's not feasible. As for the whole environmental protection and biodiversity thing, we need to find ways we need to go back to the schools, find ways to get the youths and the young people feeling like this is mine, this board is mine, this total is mine, this is something I want my children to see. And if we could find a way to get that back, we might be able to make an impact before it's too late. Before my connection dropped. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much. And Dr. Carter, you can expect that I will be continuing that. Now that we've established that linkage, I'll be continuing that connection, because I would really want to be able to share more of this research information and other information you say that is available but is not reaching the people at the grassroots level, and that is critical going forward. So once again, thank you, Ms. Pitt. Thank you.
Mr. Paul.
Yes.
One last thing.
Sure.
We can't give up hope.
No.
There's hope.
No.
When we have tonight a 13-year-old girl whose birthday is today, and for the second time, her birthday present should be a tour to the leatherback turtle nesting.
Unala? No.
You know who's that. we have hope. Spectre's logo came out of children designing our logo. This beautiful logo you have for us there on the background was designed by children. When a child at the graduation could say, as part of the valedictorian address, that the best part of their life in school was a visit to the leatherback turtle on Liverpool Beach, it says a lot. If we can build this one cocoa to fill that basket for our future generations to come, we good.
Okay. All right. Once again, thank you for coming through to the comfort zone and to Gem FM this afternoon. It was a very, very uplifting and very edifying, session. And as I said, I definitely will be, doing some excerpts from the entire conversation that can easily be shared around. This will be posted on YouTube, and it will be available, so you can share it also. I'll share the link so you can share it with others so that they can be sensitized as to what was spoken about here on the comfort zone, because we want Grenadians to be comfortable in their homeland, right? This is where we bring a close on the comfort zone for this afternoon. Thank you, everybody. Brother John, it's over to you as we bring the curtains down on the comfort zone, on the 37th edition of the comfort zone.
Again, most definitely. Thank you very much.
And before that, I need to say thank you to my audience. Sorry.
Yes. Yes,
bye-bye.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Well, thank you very much, Pablo, for a very interesting and educational show. I want to thank you, Claudette. It's been a pleasure seeing you, both you and Mandoo, again, after this many, many years. And Dr. Carter, again, it's nice meeting you. I hope that we could do some business together with all these organizations to help promote this. I'm very much interested in allowing people to get the information, the transformation of mind to make better decisions, in our country and the world environment. And I want to thank you guys for being good stewards over the environment. Because this is what we have to do, take care of our environment and take care of us. Amen? So again, thank you guys so much for being here. And Gem FM, log it on, check us out on the website at www.gemfm.ca. It's www.gemfm.ca. One love.